squares here. So replit.it, repl.it, and that will take you to replit.com. And you want to make sure you're logged in as you, so you see your name here. If not, hit login or sign in, and sign in with your, just click on Google. And we want to create a new replit. And this is going to be Python with turtle. If you don't see Python with turtle, just type py and then it should show up. Here is the fake name it gives you. What you want to do is give that a different name. If you happen to hit create replit without renaming it, it's my lunch, you can rename it here. And let's just call it abstract underscore your name. I'm going to add, this is just an example. And when you first get this, you'll get some starter code here. And if you run it, you'll see that it makes a square for you. We're not going to make use of that code. So the documentation lines 1 through 7 you can get rid of. So highlight those and hit delete. And we also don't need this. Let me pause for a moment. So if you just ran it now, you wouldn't see anything, but there is a turtle made. And if you want to type ST for show turtle, you'll see that there's an arrow there. What we're going to do is write a block of code that can make a circle, or excuse me, a square. And then we'll wrap that into a function and make it more generic, so it can make a square of any shape or size, a square of any size, any location, and any color. So let's just make this first one. All right, well, we need to give it a color. And in the beginning, we'll hard code this, but later we'll make this more generic. Also, I'm doing this without my notes here, so I probably should pull those out. But anyway, let's make a square out of this. And so what I'm making here is a loop structure for I in range. The argument is 4. And I take the right arrow key and move to the right and put a colon there. Hit enter, and I should be indented. We're going to move the turtle forward to begin to make the square, and we'll make this square just 100 pixels. Later we'll change that to be the word size. And to make a square, every 4 times you need to go forward and then turn left, and if you do that 4 times you make a square. So if I run that, I get a square. Now it's kind of slow, and I really don't need to see that turtle anymore. So I'm going to do HT on that turtle and then run it. It's kind of slow, and I can speed that up by saying t.speed, and the argument is 0, and that will be the fastest it can go. Okay? We want to fill this up with color, and here's how you go about doing that. It's a T called begin underscore fill. I know it looks weird, but then if you go to the outside of this for loop all the way back to the left, then do T end fill. And if you do that, you should have it fill with the color now, and it does. And so now we're going to wrap this in a function. So and here's how we go about doing that. You take the code that makes this turtle and makes this square. You highlight it and hit tab once. Notice I left import turtle alone. Way at the top left of this, over here, outside the indent, you type the word DEF. That's short for definition. We're defining what this function is. This function I'm going to call square. And the arguments it takes are 4 things. Where do you want it? That's the X and Y coordinate. What size it should be, and what color it should be. hit the right arrow key and then do a colon. And now we're going to redefine a couple of things. X and Y are now going to be where we put the turtle. And if you don't say where it goes to 0, 0. And I kind of forgot that part. So what I'm going to do is after t.color equals color blue, I'm going to hit enter here and say t go to. And I'll pass to it X and Y. And so this will let me tell it where I want the square to be. And again, if you didn't say anything, it puts it at 0, 0, which is right there. Let's see what else I forgot. Okay, size. That's going to be right here where it says T forward 100. We're going to change that to size. And then color. And so what that means is we got to take this guy right here, get rid of it, and just put the word color here, no apostrophes. So there's your function. Now to call it and to make use of it, you come all the way down to the left. And I'm going to write a pound sign, shift 3, then the word main, then a bunch of other pound signs. This is a signal to me that all my definitions go up here. And so if I have more functions that I write later, they all go up above this line right here. So Python looks down here to begin the program, and we're going to try to make that same square that we already have. So I call the square function. I want it at 0, 0. And I want the size to be 100 again. And I want the color to be blue, like that. And if I run it, the program now does the same thing as it did before, but just a little fancier way of doing it. What's nice about this is if you put your mouse right over here, there's a little minus sign. That means if I click on it, it collapses, and you don't have to see that code. And so what's happening is I'm calling the square function. It goes, oh yeah, well I need 4 things from you, and I gave him the 4 things. And it made that a square. Now, if I click on the plus sign, that code comes back. Now, what I want you to make, the first challenge in this today, is I want you to come over here and take a look at this. There's the blue square we just drew. Can you draw a red one over here, a light blue one here, and a lime one here, or any other colors that you'd like? Well, okay, so that's what I'm asking you to do for a second. And think about how this would be done. Let me get to the right one. And so what you do is I need another square for sure, so I'll copy this one and I'll paste it in. And of course I want this one to be a different color, so I'm going to say red. Now if I just run it, it's going to draw a blue one and then draw a red one right over it. Okay, because they're both way in the same spot and they're the same size. So I want this red one to not be on top of the blue, but over here to the left. Well, it's 100 wide. Okay, it's 100 by 100. Right here, 0, 0. That's where it began drawing. So what would be the x-coordinate and y-coordinate if I wanted a box that starts here and goes over here? Well, if this is 0, 0, on the x, that's negative 100. So let's try on the x-coordinate here, making that negative 100. And what you should see is that it's right next to it now. Okay, and so the next part of the challenge would be, can you put a box here and a box here of different colors? So what you do is you take that code that you have copied and say, I'm going to do a lime one now. And I want that to start down here. Well, that's negative 100 and then also negative 100 down here. So both of these should be negative 100. And what we did in class was ask kids to experiment with this and find out what the right numbers were. Okay. Lastly would be this one. It starts here. Well, that's 0 on the x and negative 100 on the y. So 0 on the x and then negative 100 on the y. And then let's call this one maroon. And if I hit run, I've got what I need. And so that was the first part of the class today, is to do that challenge, to make that happen. And we went quickly here, and I kind of gave you the answers, but that's how that works. Okay, here comes the second part that we wanted you to do. I'm going to comment out all these lines of code, so right if I ran it now, nothing happens. Okay? So I just kind of, it's a way to get rid of some code without actually removing it. So we come down a little bit, and let's redefine size to be 200. And I'll set x to be 0, and y to be 0. And now what I ask the students to do is to make a list called colors. So create a variable called colors and use the assignment operator, and then it's the square bracket, which is next to the letter P, and it gives you the right bracket. Inside here, we want a series of strings of colors separated by color, or separated by commas, excuse me. So come up with 10 colors, and you can look up RGB codes if you want to, but I'll just come up with some generic ones here. So there's 10 colors. And what we're going to do is traverse all the colors in this list and make a square each time. And then if we alter the size, perhaps, we can get a kind of a pattern. But I want this the pattern to be centered. So I'll show you a partial solution and see if you can come up with the rest. So we say, hey, for C in colors, that's the name of the list right here. So it's just going to go in order. We're going to call a square function, and right now we're just going to say xy size, whoops, and then C for color. And what you'll see when you run it is that it makes new squares over itself each time of all those colors. And mine ends with lime green. Well, that's not quite what we want. We want to have each square get smaller each time and then center it on the original drawing. So to make it smaller each time, that's pretty straightforward. Wouldn't you just take size and do minus equals, say 10 pixels? And if I hit run now, you should see that I'm now making all these squares that are getting smaller each time, originating from 0.0 right here. My question to you is, how could you get all of these centered? Okay. I don't know why pink showed up twice there. That's kind of weird. So anyway, let me just press enter again. That's better. Sometimes it skips a color or something. It's kind of weird. So my question to you is, can you get it to be centered? Like, you know, like, let me show you one here. I want it like that. Can you make that happen? Okay. So, you know, if you want to, pause what you're doing or pause this video and see what you could do to make that centered. Okay. And here comes the answer. If you tried, hopefully you paused and gave it a shot on your own. What we want to do is move each square in a bit so it becomes centered. And if the size is being reduced by 5, it turns out if you increase both by half of that, the x and the y, you'll end up with something centered like this. Okay. And again, it's kind of goofy here. Let me run it one more time. Yeah. It's not perfect. I'm not sure. Did I do pen up, pen down? Did I forget that? Oh, Durkin. Mad at me. There's a deal about, we got to do about pen up, pen down. That's why you're getting this line. And so this is what I get for not having my notes with me. Here's the deal you got to fix. Before we go somewhere, we got to pick the pen up and put the pen down. So if you could come right here in the function and go to where it says color here, hit enter, you got to do a pen up. And then once you move it, then you can do a pen down. And that will get rid of these lines right here. Let's try that again. Much better. Now, I certainly could add more colors to this process. You know, this seems to be plenty of room to go smaller. And so I could try other colors. Let me try a few. All right, so if I run it again, you can see for every color I add, it keeps doing it, and that's pretty cool. So here's my question. I need 4 of these. Say I want one here, I want one here, I want one down here, and I want one over here. And you're welcome to copy paste for this part. So what you could do is you could certainly wrap this in a function. I wouldn't say you can't do that. But if you want to just make it simple on yourself, just copy and paste this 4 times. So I'm going to copy where it says size and all that. And so I'm going to come down here and paste it in again. Now, the whole idea is the X and the Y. This is 200, so I want to start the next one at negative 200, 0. So I change this to negative 200. And I now should get 2 of these. And I can show you on Wednesday how to speed this whole thing up. But what you should see is I have 2 here now, right? I need one down here and I need one over here. Again, that'd be negative 200, negative 200. So the next one is both negative 200s. Now I should have a third one on the bottom left. Cool. And lastly, take this one. This is a lazy way to do it, to copy paste, but it's okay. I don't need another functionality right now. So make sure I'm all the way to the left. Come down one more time. This would be 0 on the X and negative 200 on the Y. So that way it'll start drawing right down here. And that would be considered a full first day assignment. Little abstract art here on Wednesday. We'll give you additional information to do. Please have this file with you. You'll need it. Again, that's abstract underscore your name. And you'll see here, it'll act up a little bit. You can see like, oh, I didn't quite do that. There is a workaround to make that better, and I'll show you that on Wednesday where it can kind of all show up at once. I might add this to the movie. So what you have to do is you make a screen object. So let me show you how to do that. Because I don't like how it came out. It just takes too long to draw out, right? And you saw an error there. So what you can do is you can stop the animation using a screen. So I'm going to create a screen object. Let me see how I did that. Turtle.screen. So, excuse me. And then we can do setup. I'm going to do 1,000 by 1,000. And I believe then I turn off the tracer. Let me see how that works. So S tracer, and you set that to 0, 0. And then at the very end of your program, you turn the animation back on by saying S update. And the difference with that is you get this. It just shows up, and it usually comes out really well. Isn't that wild? And so I'll probably point kids to that. People that were in class did not see that on Monday. Those last steps where, I created a screen object. I set up the screen size, turned off the animation with that code, and then just turned it back on when the program was done. And that way it shows up a lot faster. So have this file ready for you, ready for class on Wednesday, okay?